Good morning, everyone. That's more like it. Welcome to all of you that are online with us as well this morning. We're glad that you've joined us. We're going to continue on in our study of archaeology that pertains to the Bible. And if you would please, if you have your Bibles with you this morning, if you would turn to John 9. John 9. We'll have the treat of having Doug read to us again this morning. John 9. But first, we have to do a little bit of review. The name of the lesson today is Splish Splash, I Was Taking a Bath. Okay, Richard, I know you're going to answer anyway, but who sung that song? No, you know better than that. Who was it? Bobby Darin. Yeah, way back when. We just put some of these, and again, some of you that are under 40 years of age, no expectation for you to know that whatsoever. Okay? It's about the Pool of Siloam, and I think you'll find this interesting. You don't have to listen to me much this morning because we're going to take you on a guided tour by video of not only the Pool of Siloam, but a number of other things. The Israeli Antiquities Society is going to take all of us on a tour this morning. And I want to show you some progress that's been made at, we had Hezekiah's Tunnel last Lord's Day, and there's been lots of progress that's been made over the last 10 or 12 years as to digging out the Pool of Siloam. Just as a little bit of a refresher here, you might recall this from last week's lesson about Hezekiah's Tunnel about 700 BC. So this was the dotted blue line. This is the city of David. This would be south of the third temple, Herod's temple. This is the city of David, and when Hezekiah had word that Sennacherib and the Assyrians were coming to basically lay siege, they built that outer wall to protect the water system and to give them protection during a potential siege time. So the blue line that you see there runs from the Gihon Spring all the way over 1,750 feet to the Siloam Pool. And what you'll see, and I think I can point this out in a little bit, there's actually a part of the Siloam Pool that remains to this day that was in Hezekiah's time. Hezekiah's folks actually built a part of that wall. So this is Hezekiah's Tunnel. Again, this is a review. But I guess I got some after this slide here. So if you will, John chapter 9, and Doug is going to read for us John chapter 9, and you'll see the connection here because the majority of today's lesson is about the Pool of Siloam. So join in reading with us if you will, Doug.
As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus, "but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told him, "wash in the pool of Siloam." This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" Some claimed that he was. Others said, "No, he only looks like him." But he himself insisted, "I am the man." "How then were your eyes opened?" they asked. He replied, The man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. Where is this man? They asked him. I don't know, he said. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had been blind. Now the day on which Jesus had made the mud and opened the man's eyes was a Sabbath. Therefore the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. He put mud on my eyes, the man replied, and I washed, and now I see. Some of the Pharisees said, This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. But others asked, How can a sinner perform such signs? So they were divided. Then they turned again to the blind man. What have you to say about him? It was your eyes he opened. The man replied, He is a prophet. They still did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they sent for the man's parents. Is this your son? They asked. Is this the one you say was born blind? How is it that now he can see? We know he is our son, the parents answered, and we know he was born blind. But how he can see now, or who opened his eyes, we don't know. Ask him. He is of age. He will speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders, who already had decided that anyone who acknowledged that Jesus was the Messiah would be put out of the synagogue. That was why his parents said, He is of age. Ask him. A second time they summoned the man who had been blind. Give glory to God by telling the truth, they said. We know this man is a sinner. He replied, Whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. Then they asked him, What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered, I have told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? Then they hurled insults at him and said, You are this fellow's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from. The man answered, Now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. To this they replied, You were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us? And they threw him out. Jesus heard that they had thrown him out. And when he found him, he said, Do you believe in the Son of Man? Who is he, sir? The man asked. Tell me so that I may believe in him. Jesus said, You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you. Then the man said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. Jesus said, For judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind. Some Pharisees who were with him heard him say this and asked, What? Are we blind too? Jesus said, If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains.
So, thank you, Doug. So the Bible outlines for us that this place called Siloam, this pool of Siloam, was actually there. And this lesson is about what they're actually finding in this day and time regarding the pool of Siloam, that very place. When you get to the video in just a little bit, Siloam is also in Hebrew known as Shiloah. So Shiloah, you'll hear in the video referring to the pool of Siloam. So the pool of Siloam, this you can see was out of the Los Angeles Times, August 13th, 2005. It was a headliner there. And you see on the left, there was a sewage pipe that was being repaired, and as they had the equipment out there to dig out this sewage line, they all of a sudden hit stone. I'm paraphrasing what's written up here. So they hit stone, and when you hit stone around Jerusalem, it's automatic that you have to call the Israel Antiquities Society so that they can send people out to inspect this. And so they hit this stone, and again, the reason for this picture is just showing that that sewage pipe was there, and it has been relocated since that time. The center is the Gihon Spring that's running, that comes out, that exits in this area. And on the right is the steps that lead up to, do you remember we had a video that showed the ascent to the temple from this pool? No? Well, it's all right, because I'm going to show it to you anyway. But you see that this is 2006, and this was not taken out. Now, I think you're going to be pretty amazed here in a little bit when you see this video as to what they've done. And the Israelis have actually received patents for how you dig out under houses and support all of that. And they're digging out this complete walk of ascent, these stone steps, all the way to where the temple was. So this is from the urban simulation team, again, School of Arts and Architecture at UCLA. UCLA is on the left coast, as you might recall. It's the University of California at Los Angeles. It's on that coast out there. So you guys are going to have to hit this, I think, as far as letting this play. Yeah, there you go. Hit that arrow at the bottom left over there. Yes, go ahead, please. It'll take it just a second to load. But what I want you to see, this leads from the Pool of Siloam. Now you see those steps in the center? And these are the houses that would have been built there in the city of David back during that time. And this road, these steps of ascent that lead to Herod's temple, you're going to see on the inside of it here in just a few minutes in this video. But this would have been the walk after the Pool of Siloam was there basically for the pilgrims or for those who were coming in for the feasts to wash themselves so that they could be presentable to go to the temple. And during this time, we know that, well, not during this time, but in the past, the name of God, His presence, the Shekinah presence of God was in that temple. Now, this is Herod's temple. And what you need to see here, that's Robinson's arch that runs into the southwest corner of the temple. And it's going to take you up. And this is really benefit for those who were not here to see this video at previous time. But just to give you a scope of some of the unbelievable architecture, engineering, and building that took place to build this place. So now you're entering the portico on the south side of the temple. And again, they did this recreation and this animation based upon all the writings of Josephus and ancient writings as to what comprised the temple back during that time. The most amazing thing to me is to think about that, and if you'll walk with this video, you're going to walk into the court of the Gentiles right now. This is the court of the Gentiles, and you remember that the court of the Gentiles was on both sides of the temple, and that this area comprised about 13 acres on each side of the temple. So you're looking at what could be somewhat similar to what the people that walked into the temple, what they would have been looking at this time. This is a big structure. They even put in the smoke from the incense burning. You see that? Every once in a while you see a bird fly through. So it was a big place. Okay. So now you get to the video. We get to the good part here. This is the video credit and license. Again, the author is Kobe Harati. It's a live walkthrough with the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's called Walking the Jerusalem Pilgrim Road. It's the publisher was the City of David Archives and put into YouTube. You can see that we've made attribution to the YouTube site. For any of these that you would like to have these so that you can look at it personally, be happy to send those to you in email so that you can do this. So this is licensed. We've made attribution now. We're going to proclaim that this is non-commercial use for any of the AI wonks that are out there. So we move on. Okay, So guys, you're going to have to hit this up. Now, this is about a 20-minute video, 20 to 25-minute video. And that tunnel, I'll just give you a prelim, that tunnel is that pilgrimage road that you just looked at, the ascent on those stones, and they're eventually going to get this all the way up to the site of Herod's temple. Go ahead and play it, guys.
Hi, everybody. Today we are celebrating Jerusalem Day, which marks the reunification of the capital of Israel in 1967. But the history of Jerusalem and the connection of the Jewish people to their homelands began thousands of years ago here in the capital of Israel, in Jerusalem, at the city of David, where it all started. So join us today for a very special tour. We're going to give you an inside look of this incredible historic place, and you'll be able to ask questions in the comments. So yalla, let's get started. Hi. Good morning.
Hello, Tamar. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Welcome back home to Jerusalem.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the city of David. Hello.
Thank you. So we are very lucky to have with us here today Jamie, an Israeli tour guide who's going to give us an inside view of this fascinating place. So Jamie, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we are standing right now?
So this is actually a phenomena. The story of biblical Jerusalem, or Jerusalem itself, goes back 3,800 years ago. We're talking the periods of First Temple period, Second Temple period, thousands of years ago. And the phenomena we'll show you today that is off limit, close to the public, still being revealed, still being researched, is the ancient 2,000-year-old pilgrimage road where all Jews used to gather here in Jerusalem during the feasts, Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot, Tabernacles, and ascend up to the temple, the ascent. It all begins in the year 2004. What happens over here? Come with me, Tamar, right to this area, and I'd like you to look at this stone cliff right above our heads.
Okay.
I'd say 3-4 meters under the peak of this stone cliff, round about the height of this beam we see over here, there was a modern road, an asphalt road, that was paved over here, I'd say, 70, 80 years ago. Underneath that road, in 2004, there was a sewage pipe that burst. Israel Antiquities Authority had to join the team that dug over here to fix it. The tractors arrive to this road. They start peeling off the layers of the asphalt, and scraping noises started to appear. And all of a sudden, these steps, these man-made steps, were found.
Is this something that's normal in this area?
Well, in Jerusalem and the area of the holy sites, the Old City, and biblical Jerusalem, yes, it is. And that's why Israel Antiquities Authority archaeologists had to join the excavation while fixing over here. So they weren't surprised when they started revealing man-made carved stones, but that hit our curiosity. So we ran, we got a permit, we started revealing the 2,000-year-old Shiloach pool, known in English as the Pool of Siloam.
Okay. Who is Siloam?
So, in English it's Siloam, in Hebrew Shiloach, meaning the water was sent. The water was sent where?
Right.
Here. Hence, 2,000 years ago, a Judean Roman tyrant by the name of Herods, Horus, building the Temple Mount and renovating the Second Temple, making it the most glorified temple in the East, had to build a ritual bath, I'd say, a facility that all comers to Jerusalem could bathe in that pool, a mikveh. And in order for that to happen, he's got to build something huge.
Right.
So when we started excavating over here, what do we find? We find 20%, or we reveal 20% of this 2,000-year-old Shiloach pool. Wait, does that ring a bell, Tamar? Of course it does, and I'll tell you from where. From ancient Jewish accounts, like the Mishnah. We learn that in the Chag of Sukkot, the tabernacles, the high priest used to walk down from the temple, quote, to the Shiloach pool, take a golden vessel, collect water, and walk back up to the temple. And that was the biggest parade, and people were in joy, ecstatic from that celebration, Simchat Beit HaShoeva. It began here. The big question is, from the pool, how did they ascend? Where did they ascend from? Here. And that is what we want to show you today. I'll just mark and tell you that this area, this strip you're seeing over here, is less than 20% of the entire Shiloach pool that
So it must be
continues.
pretty massive.
It's huge. It's
Wow.
50 by 50 meters, 2 Olympic-sized pools right under this garden over here. It's still hiding. I'd like to show you the challenges that we go through during the excavations in an urban area where people live. How do you reveal? How do you dig?
Right.
And what do we find and why? This is a phenomenon, the Flag Project of Israel Antiquities Authority. I am super excited.
I'm really excited too.
We'll start walking to this area
Great.
and you will see something incredible. What's incredible? The water. What filled up the pool? So right down over here, have a look. Can you see running water?
Oh my God.
That is the Gichon spring water that begins roughly 400 meters. It gushes. Gichon in Hebrew, in English, means gusher. So there's only one spring in Jerusalem, natural spring. It's called Gichon. And a tunnel diverting the water to here, known as Hezekiah's tunnel, would have filled this pool. So we diverted the water now to the Kidron Valley behind me, so this area doesn't flood. But in years to come, hopefully, we will divert the water back into the pool, and people will be able to experience and see what it would have looked like thousands of years ago.
So just to understand, you dig and you dig and you dig and then you hit water? Is that how it kind of
Well,
came about?
so we knew that the water would come out from here somewhere, but we couldn't reveal the continuation of Hezekiah's tunnel or the aqueduct, knowing that we have a road above our heads, knowing that we have people living over here.
Right.
It's an urban area. But once you can get the permit, and once it goes through Israel Antiquities Authority's approval, we can start digging over here and revealing it. So this water is actually natural water coming from the spring through an aqueduct, man-made aqueduct, that would have filled this pool. Continuing where we are over here, I'd like to show you something very interesting. Look how long this strip is. We're talking 150 feet, more or less. It's incredible because in meters it is 50 meters long. And again, underground penetrating radar scans that we took over here show it continues that way to the west, another 50 meters. So imagine a huge facility, a huge pool, everyone bathing over here, gathering over here.
How many people would you estimate?
So it's not an estimation, it's what the accounts tell us, that hundreds of thousands came here every festival, Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot, to begin the ascent, the song of ascent, Shir LaMa'alot. This is where they would have sang it and ascend up to Jerusalem, to the temple. Why is that so important? Because the accounts tell us hundreds of thousands. Two main reasons. One, the phenomena King Herod built, the Temple Mount, and the second temple renovation. The accounts tell us that millions came here every year to see that. And there's a reason. Why? Because back in those days, under the Roman era, we know that other nations had multiple temples. How many temples did the Jews have? Only one. So all the energy, money, and effort went towards this project. And from here, they would have walked up to see that phenomena. What we have over here is actually a drawing showing us what the pool would have looked like.
Wow.
So this dark blue strip you're seeing over here is what we've revealed up until today. And this is where we stood, and we walked this way right over to here. So in the drawing, you can actually see a piazza or a plaza over here, right? When people would have come out the pool and start walking up. How do we know that this was that long as we draw it over here? Tamar, look at this. It's right over there.
Oh my God.
So all these huge flagstones, 2,000-year-old flagstones we're standing on now, were preserved for thousands of years, and it's been revealed
Wow.
to the public.
So I have a question. If you're talking about like millions of people coming here, how did the, I guess, municipalities in those days, or whatever you would call them, safely facilitate their passage to this pool?
So that's a challenge, and obviously you would have had guards, and the accounts actually tell us that even though hundreds of thousands came here every celebration, every feast, every chag, every human being would always find a place to stay in. And it was never tight, because we're talking about the center of the Jewish world. We're talking about the capital of the Jewish world. You had many hotels over here, many houses, and people would have opened their houses to the multitudes, feeding them, helping them. Yeah, you might have paid a few shekels here and there, but the accounts tell us that it was very comfortable to the people because there was a lot of hospitality over
Like an
here.
Airbnb, a cheap Airbnb.
Well, yes, sort of. You bet. Because the cause was the temple. And if it's holy, you've got to be holy while welcoming people to Jerusalem and being a part of that project.
Incredible.
I'd like to tell you one of the most incredible stories that took place over here while excavating. Can you see the grill behind you? Right over
Right
here.
there.
That is a drainage system. Why is that amazing? Because while excavating here in 2004, archaeologists Professor Ronnie Reich and Eli Shukrun from Israel Antiquities Authority found this round manhole.
Wow.
Can you see these holes over here?
Yeah.
This is what drained rainwater into a drainage system.
This is like a sewer.
Yes, exactly. It has nothing to do with the aqueduct, with the clean water that would have filled the pool. They realize there's a drainage system round about this area. They find this drainage system. They jump in, and it takes them north. They start crawling on their bellies, 600 meters up north, and they exit at the western wall. And while they were crawling on their bellies, they saw from bottom to top, in the drainage system, a few other manholes that indicated to them that there's a road, a proper promenade, if you'd like, a Champs-Élysées or a Fifth Avenue of Jerusalem connecting the pool to the temple, the ascent. Why is that important? Because that's when we realized, oh my word, we have a road above our heads, above the drainage system. Let's reveal it. Let's find it. But come with me.
So this is the original road that you guys found?
I know why you're surprised, because they look completely new, hardly
Yeah.
worn out.
Totally.
There's a reason, and I'm going to touch
Okay.
that reason, which is incredible, and you'll be amazed when you see what I have to show you. I'll just tell you very quickly that the fact that many houses were built here in the last 100 years, and unlike America, for instance, we don't have eminent domain. When a governor or a city, a state, can tell the inhabitants, please move out of your house. We have all sorts of national interests over here. We don't have that, so we can't reveal the road, the 2,000-year-old avenue or pilgrimage road, because we have modern houses covering it. So what do? Tamar. Necessity is mother of innovation. Israel, known as a high-tech nation, when we have a challenge, we have to...
Be creative.
You bet. So the city of David, along with Israel Antiquities Authority, what did they do? They found, or they invented, a new patent. And that patent is how to dig under houses and under the modern road without anything collapsing.
Wow.
No one wanted to do it.
So nobody's being vacated from their homes. Nobody has to leave.
No way. And that is something that we, the city of David, won a prize, worldwide prize, first place. This is like the Oscar of the tunneling. And we, the city of David, won that reward roughly 8 months ago in Norway.
Wow.
Exciting. So
Very.
what did we do? Come with me. To your right over here, you'll actually see an original 2,000-year-old first shop coming out of the pool. And this is the beginning of the Fifth Avenue. Location, location, location.
Location, location, location.
Prada, Gucci, Armani if you'd like. But what you're seeing over here, the fruit, the vegetables, the souvenirs, the sacrifices, the money changers, everything is based on what? On the archaeological excavation, the findings, the artifacts. And we're able more or less to understand what people saw, what people bought, what people sold worldwide coming over here.
So in this case, what are some of the artifacts you found to point to the fact that it was a store?
So many weights, and we know that you had the agronimus. The agronimus was the official from the municipality. His role was to make sure that the weights are right and no monkey business is going on over here. We find a lot of organic material and peels that were preserved.
Oh,
Hence,
wow.
we can actually know what people sold over here. Grain, fruit, vegetables. Obviously, linen would not have survived this area or 2,000 years. But we do know that people did buy souvenirs coming here worldwide, wanting to bring back to their family, wherever they came from, souvenirs from Jerusalem.
Like any other market around the world
You
today.
bet. You had restaurants over here, and we know that because we find, and this is incredible, we find thousands of bones, animal bones. Can you guess what? You know what? Can you guess what animal bones we don't find?
Pig.
Yes.
Okay,
So-
that I understood.
So pork was not eaten in Jerusalem, unkosher, unclean, and that's why we don't find those kind of bones. But we do find other animals, fish bones, deer, lamb, etc. While we walk on these 2,000-year-old flagstones, Tamar, I want you to note something. Can you see there are flagstones that are missing?
Yes.
And we have it 1, 2, 3, and as we go up, we can see roughly 4 or 5 different areas where the huge 2,000-year-old flagstones covering the drainage system are actually missing. And while crawling through over here in 2004, all the way up 1,800 feet to the western wall, we found pieces of these flagstones inside, smashed pottery, and actually cooking pots that were in one piece. Hundreds of coins, a sword, a Roman sword with its leather cover.
A full sword?
You bet, you
Wow.
bet. And Professor Ronnie Reich knew immediately what that sword is all about. I'll tell you that a little bit later. But this, unfortunately, hides within it a very dramatic and sad story of the end of Jerusalem in the year 70 CE, 1,952 years ago, the destruction of the Second Temple. And who's counting, Tamar? We're counting. I'll tell you that a little bit later when we talk about the dramatic end of this road, the 2,000-year-old flagstones and promenade, and that'll also help us understand why these stones are in such good shape. So, follow me behind the scenes to where it's off limit, and hopefully in a few years from now it'll be open to the millions, to the multitudes coming to Jerusalem, walking the footsteps of our ancestors.
So people haven't been here yet.
Not yet.
Wow.
So don't look at the code, my
Okay,
dear.
not looking.
It's a state
Don't look at the code,
secret.
guys.
Hold
It's
on.
really a state secret. We're going
Follow
in.
me behind the scenes.
Thank you.
So as we walk over here, remember we have the modern road above our heads
Okay.
and some houses. And look at these enormous steel bars we have over our heads. Quickly, the technique itself, in order to preventing a slight movement of 1 micron, I'll show you right above your head over here. You can see what the patent is. We drill in pipes that will be the supporters, the foundations of what we have above our heads, and then gradually dig very slowly. How slowly? I'm talking dental equipment.
Oh, wow.
A little shovel, very slowly, because you want to prevent any collapse over here. You can understand this, the outcome of a collapse over here. So things are done very, very delicately, very slowly to prevent any collapse.
So how long did it take to dig all of this?
It still does. Ever
Okay.
since 2004, gradually. And because it's so slowly, it takes a long time to reveal. It's a challenge that we are able to face only by working very carefully.
Todd.
Okay.
So we'll continue up above over here. Follow me. What's your step?
Okay, so that's a tickler. If you want to see the entire video, I'll be happy to provide the link so that you can go to YouTube and watch the entirety. A few other things to cover here. Okay, so this is a picture of current day. Now, you saw the picture in the video earlier, and of course that's dated somewhat, but you can see what they're digging on their, how they're getting along with digging out this pool. What had eventually happened is some people owned that where he talked about the garden. They hadn't been able to get rid of that. They have purchased that. So there were other churches that owned that portion of it. That's now all been, and they go very cautiously through all of this. If you could see most of this video, this one, you would see that they are meticulous as far as how they screen all of the material that they dig, because they're looking for other types of things that, they come up as far as antiquities. So this is where they are present day. This is from August 2023. And this was the picture that they showed on the wall there of what the pool would have looked like. And I kind of skipped through that just a second ago to tell the story about why this happened, why they built these pools, these purification and cleansing pools. It has something to do with us today as well, right? But as people traveled from the south of Israel, most of these people, they weren't on Uber, or they didn't have a rental car, or they didn't have these other things to come all this way. How did they travel back in these days? They walked, or they had, I heard, camels, or they had donkeys, or they had carts that were carried by animals and that type of thing. Pardon me? Yeah, you think it'd be a little dirty after coming 100 miles from the south, and you had all those animals on that road? If any of you have been on a farm before, you know what I'm talking about. They would have been kind of nasty by the time they got there. So it was necessary to get rid of the filth before you went to meet with God at His house. Now, north of the city of Jerusalem, there was another pool that you've read about in the Bible called the Pool of Bethsaida. Do you remember that one? And there was one on the east side of Jerusalem as well. So each of these roads coming in, and as we will see in the last class that we're having, Lord willing, in this series, we're going to talk about, he said the word mitzvah a little bit ago. We're going to talk about the number of mitzvahs, of actual bathing bathtubs that were all over the area surrounding the temple. It was not only for a pool like this, but there were many smaller pools as well. Let me ask a question. The priests that you read about in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, before they offered sacrifices on the altar in the temple, what did they do to those sacrifices? Oh yeah, they cut them up, but then they did what? They washed them, right? To make them presentable. The folks that were coming here, they were cleaning themselves up to make themselves presentable. It has something to do with a thing we call baptism, not directly related, but cleaning oneself up, right? Acts 22. Turn in your Bibles, or you can just read on the screen if you can see it. Now, the earlier John 9 was a man that was blind, that was made to be able to see because he had saliva and mud made and put on his eyes. But was that the entirety of the story that made him able to see? He was commanded to do something, was he not? He was commanded to go and to wash in the pool of Siloam, right? So there's something about that, about following directions and obedience to what someone has been told by a person of God to get them to purity. Here's another instance. This instance is where Paul had been arrested when he was at the temple in Jerusalem, and he was making an appeal to the people who were gathered out there. And before this, if you read just a little bit before this in Acts, he makes his presentation to these people, and he's telling them the story of his conversion. Doug's going to read it to us. Doug, Acts 22.
A man named Ananias came to see me. He was a devout observer of the law and highly respected by all the Jews living there. He stood beside me and said, "Brother Saul, receive your sight." And at that very moment I was able to see him. Then he said, "The God of our ancestors has chosen you to know his will and to see the righteous one and to hear words from his mouth. You will be his witness to all people of what you have seen and heard. And now, what are you waiting for? Get up, be baptized, and wash your sins away, calling on his name.
Did Paul have some filth that he was carrying with him? Yeah. Yeah, he was a very angry, murderous type of person, if you recall the stories. So I'm just saying here that the connection between ancient washing rituals, it carried forth for a long, long time for a person to be able to be cleansed. It was told Paul here, get up, be baptized, which means what? To be plunged, to be put under, and wash your sins away. Do you see how this carried out through all of these years as far as the washing mechanism as a portion of being cleansed before God? That's the application here today. Thank you for being here.